Hello, my dear friends. You woke up this morning not by accident, not by habit, but by grace. The breath in your lungs is not just oxygen, it is permission to begin again. And though the sky may still be gray, though the world outside might still be quiet, there is already movement in the unseen. God is already present, grace is already waiting, and before anything unfolds today, you are invited into something sacred, the choice to see, not just to look, but to see, to recognize beauty where others see burden, to notice God where others see routine, to catch glimpses of eternity even in the smallest passing moment. But for that, you must ask for new eyes, not the ones that simply process color and shape and motion, but the eyes of your spirit, the deep sight that awakens not just to what is around you, but to what is within you and beyond you. That kind of sight cannot be summoned by effort or sharpened by will. It can only be received. And so, you begin this day not with ambition, but with asking, Lord, open my eyes, open them to the blessing disguised as silence, open them to the mercy hidden in what feels like waiting, open them to the gift of being here, alive, even when life feels unfinished, because blessings are not always bold, they do not always shout your name or arrive wrapped in joy. Sometimes they slip in quietly through detours and delays. Sometimes they hide inside repetition. Sometimes they take the shape of a person you've grown used to, or a task you've done 100 times, or a path that no longer excites you. But the sacred is not limited to the new or the noticeable. God often speaks in the soft, the subtle, the still, and when your eyes are open, you will see it all differently. The light in your kitchen becomes the light of creation. The sound of footsteps becomes a rhythm of grace. The moment you pause becomes a moment of prayer. But first, you must ask to be made aware, ask to be gently awakened, ask not to miss what has been prepared for you, even if it doesn't look like what you expected. The world teaches you to look for success, for speed, for the next big thing. But the Spirit invites you to look for God. And God is not hiding, but He is holy. And sometimes you must become still enough to notice Him. So right now, let your prayer be simple. Lord, I want to see you today. Not just in the easy and beautiful, but in the difficult and dull. Not just in answered prayers, but in the spaces where I still wait. Not just in what makes me smile, but in what stretches me, humbles me, refines me. I want to live this day awake, to walk slowly enough to notice, gently enough to receive, humbly enough to rejoice. Because this is not just another Tuesday or another Thursday or just any morning. This is the day the Lord has made, and that means there is blessing in it, even if I have to look deeper to find it. And so I ask you again, Lord, open my eyes. Help me to see the grace in what is small. Help me to see the purpose in what is quiet. Help me to see your fingerprints on the ordinary. And if I forget today, if I get distracted or overwhelmed or discouraged, bring me back to this place of seeing. Bring me back to this moment of surrender. Bring me back to the beginning, not the beginning of time or of the world, but the beginning of trust. Because when I trust you, I see differently. When I trust you, I do not need to know everything, I only need to notice you. When I trust you, I do not need a miracle to believe, I only need a mustard seed of vision. And that is enough. That is where I begin. Not by planning, not by fixing, not by bracing myself, but by asking to see. This is the prayer before all others today. This is the foundation. This is the first breath of worship, not a song, but a surrender. And now, with heart unclenched and eyes lifted, you can take your first step, not with certainty, but with clarity, not with answers, but with awareness, not with a map, but with open eyes, and that is enough. And if your eyes grow tired again throughout the day, if your vision gets blurred by disappointment or busyness or fear, remember this. You can always return to this prayer. You can always whisper again, even in the middle of a crowded room or a restless mind, Lord, open my eyes. You are not weak for needing to ask more than once. You are not failing if you forget and have to begin again. That is the rhythm of grace. It is not a straight path upward, but a returning, a soft circling back to the one who never turns away. Every time you ask to see, heaven leans close. Every time you ask to notice, the Spirit responds with gentle clarity. You are not alone in wanting to see more of God. He placed that desire in you, and He will honor it. So let that be your comfort and your courage. You are not walking into this day blindly. You are not moving forward in darkness. You are not at the mercy of your own understanding. You are held. You are guided. You are being taught how to see, slowly, deeply, faithfully. And even if all you can see right now is one small thing, a ray of light, a kind word, a moment of silence, that is enough. That is how spiritual sight begins. With wonder, with stillness, with saying yes to what is already in front of you. Today, you are not just going through motions. You are not just surviving. You are walking with eyes open to heaven's nearness. You are participating in something eternal. You are learning to see like Jesus, through the lens of love, through the eyes of mercy, through the perspective of hope. And that will change everything, not only for you but for those around you. Because when your eyes are open, your heart follows. And when your heart is full of grace, your life becomes a blessing to others. So breathe again, whisper it one last time before you move forward. Lord, open my eyes to see the blessings you've prepared for me today, even the ones I do not yet understand. And let that prayer linger, quietly, gently, like sunlight over the earth. You may not wake up today to a miracle. There may be no fire from heaven, no parting sea, no thunderous voice calling your name. And yet, God is near, not because you feel Him, but because He promised to be. Not because something spectacular happens, but because even in the ordinary, He is Emmanuel, God with us. He walks with you through quiet kitchens and long commutes, through crowded sidewalks and silent rooms. He is there in every breath you take, in every leaf that stirs, in every cup of water you drink with gratitude. And if you ask Him to open your eyes, you will begin to see it, not all at once, but in gentle flashes of awareness. You will see Him in the way sunlight lingers on your window pane, in the way someone holds the door open for you, in the way a familiar voice says your name with kindness. These are not accidents. These are not background noise. These are echoes of grace reminding you that you are loved, noticed, and never alone. But to see them, you must slow down. The world rushes and demands and shouts for more achievement, more speed, more noise. But grace is never loud. It waits quietly. It waits for eyes willing to notice and hearts ready to receive. And today, if your prayer is sincere, you will begin to feel it, the subtle shift from routine to reverence, from rushing to resting, from overlooking to beholding. What once felt like repetition may suddenly feel sacred. Folding laundry becomes a moment of thankfulness for warmth and shelter. Washing dishes becomes a chance to say thank you for nourishment and provision. Walking down the hallway becomes a quiet pilgrimage, a space to whisper, "Lord, I know you're here." You may still have deadlines. You may still feel tired. The noise of life does not vanish. But through open eyes, you begin to live differently. You begin to see that blessing does not always come with music and celebration. Sometimes it comes in stillness, in a single deep breath, in being able to move your body, to speak a word of kindness, to pause long enough to smile. These are not small things. These are glimpses of grace, tiny reminders that heaven has not forgotten you. You do not need a mountain to move to know God is with you. You do not need a dramatic encounter to be changed. You only need the willingness to see Him where you are, right here, right now, even in the ordinary, especially in the ordinary, because that's where Jesus walked, in dusty roads, in crowded homes, in broken places. That's where He meets you still, in your dishes and deadlines, in your coffee and car rides, in the sigh you didn't realize you let out and the tear you didn't mean to cry. That is where He is near, and when you begin to see that, your day is no longer something to survive, it becomes a sanctuary. You realize you are not passing through time. You are walking with the eternal. You are not waiting for grace to find you, it already has. And now your job is simply to notice, to say thank you, to open your eyes again and again and again, because the more you notice Him, the more you'll trust Him. And the more you trust Him, the more you'll live this day with peace. So let this be your whispered prayer as you move forward. Lord, help me not to overlook you today, not in the routine, not in the repetition, not in the familiar faces or the quiet tasks. Let every step I take be a chance to see you again. Let every ordinary moment become extraordinary simply because you are in it. And perhaps the greatest miracle today is not something that changes around you, but something that awakens within you, a shift in how you see, how you feel, how you walk through what once felt empty. Because when your eyes are truly open, even the smallest gestures become holy. A warm cup held in your hands becomes communion. A quiet moment before a task becomes prayer. A gentle reply instead of frustration becomes a hymn. And you start to understand. You were never meant to separate the sacred from the simple. God designed your life not as compartments of worship and work, but as one continuous offering of the heart. So now, as you move through this day, let everything become an altar. Let every room you walk into be a place where grace is possible. Let every conversation carry a touch of compassion. Let every interruption remind you that divine appointments rarely look like your plans. You don't need to escape your life to find God. You only need to open your eyes to the God who is already woven into your life. In the sink full of dishes, in the long hallway of the office, in the laughter that breaks tension, in the silence that makes space for breath, in the glance of someone who sees you. And as your eyes are opened more and more, so will your heart, because vision always touches the soul. And soon, What you once overlooked will become the very thing that brings you peace. Not because it is perfect, but because you now see it through the lens of love. And love changes how you measure beauty. Love changes how you notice joy. Love changes how you live today. So go gently now. Carry this awareness like a candle through your morning. Let your spirit whisper gratitude for what once seemed invisible. Because today will not be filled with fire from heaven. It will be filled with hidden grace. And with eyes that see. That is more than enough. Not every morning feels peaceful. Some days begin with a heavy sigh, with worry waiting at your doorstep, with too much to do and not enough strength to do it. And in moments like these, it's easy to forget what you prayed yesterday. It's easy to feel like God is far, but right here, in the wait, in the worry, in the long to-do list that makes you feel small, there is still blessing. And if you ask Him to open your eyes, you may not see it right away, but slowly, gently, your heart will begin to notice what your fear tried to cover up. The fact that you woke up is still a gift. The fact that you care so much, even though it hurts, shows you're alive and your heart is still open. Even the ache you feel can lead you back to the arms of a faithful God who never promised life would be easy, but always promised to be near. When the trouble feels like it's too close, look again, look beyond what is stressing you and ask, Lord, where are you in this? You may not hear a voice, but you might notice a bit of calm rising in your chest. You might feel a strange kind of peace that doesn't make the pain go away but makes it less loud. You might suddenly remember a truth that you had forgotten, that you are not facing this alone. Trouble has a way of narrowing your focus, of making you see only what's wrong. But prayer stretches your sight again. It reminds you to lift your eyes, not to pretend the trouble isn't real, but to see that it is not all there is. There is still goodness here, still beauty, still moments of relief, even if they're small. And when you notice them, when you thank God for them, something begins to shift inside. The pressure may not vanish, but your spirit becomes stronger. You stop bracing for disaster and start leaning into grace. You stop asking, why is this happening? And start asking, how will you meet me in this, Lord? And He will, maybe through someone who checks in on you unexpectedly, maybe through a quiet walk that clears your thoughts, maybe through a small breakthrough in the middle of a messy day, or maybe He'll just sit with you in the middle of it all, not fixing, not explaining, but simply being present. And that presence is blessing. That nearness is mercy. That moment when you realize you're still standing, that's grace too. So don't wait for the storm to pass before you thank Him. Don't wait for the pain to be over before you open your eyes to His kindness. Look again. Even in this, there is something good. Even now, something sacred is unfolding. It may not look how you wanted. It may not feel how you hoped. But it is still love, still grace, still God. So if your heart is hurting this morning, let this be your quiet prayer. Lord, I don't need you to take all my problems away right now. I just need eyes to see that you are still here. I need the kind of vision that isn't shaken by bad news or tired mornings. I need to see the blessings that are still true even when life feels hard. Open my eyes to see what you're doing in the middle of this, not after the trouble is gone, but while I'm still walking through it, because I believe you're with me. I believe you're working even when I can't see how. I believe blessing is not the absence of difficulty, it's the presence of your peace inside it. And that is what I need today. And maybe today, the blessing is not in what changes around you, but in what softens within you. Maybe the situation is still messy, the answers are still unclear, the weight still hasn't lifted, but your heart has found a quieter rhythm. You're breathing slower, you're not panicking like before, you're not fighting everything that goes wrong. Instead, you're learning to say, even this, Lord, even now. That is not weakness, that is maturity, that is faith, because it takes courage to look at something that hurts and still believe God is working. It takes trust to say thank you when you don't feel thankful. It takes spiritual sight to find goodness in the middle of imperfection. And that's what you're praying for right now, not for the storm to stop, but for your eyes to stay open while it rages. You're asking God to help you notice what you usually miss when you're overwhelmed. The friend who texts just the right words, the neighbor who smiles when you needed it most, the meal that nourishes not just your body, but your soul, the moment of silence that gives your mind room to breathe again. And you begin to realize, you don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't even have to feel strong. You just need to notice what's still good, what's still true, what's still from Him. Because when you learn to see blessing in the middle of your struggle, you are not denying reality, you are declaring a deeper one. That God is still God, that He hasn't stopped being faithful, that His mercy didn't vanish when things got hard. Sometimes the most powerful prayer you can whisper is not loud or poetic, it's quiet and honest. Lord, I feel lost, but I know You're here, and He is. In your confusion, in your fatigue, in your questions, He is the same God on your worst days as He is on your best. He doesn't love you less when you feel low. He doesn't walk away when you're discouraged. He doesn't grow tired of your repeated prayers. He stays. He listens. He holds you. And when you ask Him to open your eyes, He begins to show you what He's been doing all along, not just rescuing you from pain, but redeeming you through it. So today, don't wait for everything to make sense. Don't wait for the perfect moment to praise Him. Let your gratitude rise from right here, right in the middle of your ordinary mess. Because even now, He is near. And even this, He can use for your good. Sometimes it's not your eyes that need opening, it's your heart. Because you can look at something 100 times and never truly see it for what it is until your heart is ready. And grace, more than anything, is something you recognize with your heart. It doesn't always sparkle, it doesn't always stand out. It doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it looks like an ordinary conversation that suddenly gives you peace. Sometimes it sounds like a laugh you haven't heard in a while. Sometimes it feels like a weight that slowly lifts even though nothing around you has changed. That's grace, and the more your heart learns to notice it, the more you start seeing just how often God shows up. Not only in the big things, but in the small things that stack up like quiet reminders. You are loved. You are not alone. You are still being held. And it's okay if you've missed these things before. It's okay if you've been too tired or too busy or too overwhelmed to notice. Grace is patient. It keeps coming. It doesn't need a perfect heart. It just needs an open one. So today, pray for that, not for everything to go your way, not for every door to open, but for a heart that is soft enough to receive what's already been given. A heart that doesn't measure blessings by size, but by truth. A heart that finds joy in things that others walk past. A heart that chooses thankfulness even when life feels average, because gratitude doesn't always come after something great happens. Sometimes it comes first. Sometimes it's the very thing that turns a regular moment into a holy one. When you begin your day with a heart ready to recognize grace, your eyes follow. You start living slower, not because you have less to do, but because you don't want to miss what God is doing. You start becoming more gentle, not because life gets easier, but because you feel more anchored. You start feeling peace, not because the world is quiet, but because your soul is paying attention. And even when hard things come, and they will, you'll be able to hold on to something deeper. Because your heart has seen too much of God's goodness to forget now. It's like learning a new way to breathe, one that doesn't rush, one that doesn't strive, one that remembers grace is not something you earn, it's something you receive. And when your heart really believes that, every day becomes a little lighter. So as you step into this day, don't wait for something dramatic to call it blessed. Don't wait for the perfect mood, the ideal plan, or the exciting news. Just look around you, look within you, look to the one who never stops giving, and whisper this prayer: Lord, give me a heart that doesn't overlook your kindness. Help me see beauty in the quiet. Help me feel joy in being alive. Help me receive this day not as a burden, but as a blessing, not because everything will be easy, but because you'll be with me in it. And that is enough. And maybe today, what you need most is not a solution, not a new door, not even a fresh start, but a heart that sees what's already good. A heart that stops comparing. A heart that stops chasing things just to feel worthy. A heart that doesn't wait until life is perfect before it says thank you. Because perfection is not the doorway to peace, presence is. And when your heart is present, when it's not racing ahead or stuck behind, you begin to recognize the gifts hidden in plain sight. You notice how someone says your name gently. You realize how much comfort there is in a familiar routine. You feel the grace in the way your body still moves, breathes, carries you. You pause and see how far you've come, even if the road still feels long. And that pause, that awareness, is where healing begins, not because your pain disappears, but because you finally see you've been carried this whole time. Through the stress, through the questions, through the seasons that didn't make sense. You didn't make it here alone, and you're not moving forward alone either. So when your heart starts to drift toward fear again, come back to gratitude, not as a duty, but as a quiet return, a way to come home to yourself, a way to recenter your soul. And if you don't know what to thank God for, start small. Start with breath, start with the sky, start with the people who make you laugh. Start with the way you're still here, still holding on. Because grace doesn't ask for a lot, it just asks to be seen. And the more you recognize it, the more it grows, not because God gives you more, but because your heart becomes more open. And an open heart can hold more joy, more peace, more of His presence. So as you move into this day, take that heart with you. Not a perfect one, not a fearless one, just a heart that says, I want to see, and you will. Maybe not all at once, maybe not in the way you expect, but slowly, beautifully, you will begin to recognize that grace was never far. It was always here, waiting for your heart to notice. You've asked for spiritual sight. You've learned to look again in the hard moments. You've begun to recognize grace even in the smallest places. And now, it's time to live this day, not as someone waiting for blessings to appear, but as someone ready to notice them. With open eyes, you begin differently. You don't rush through the morning. You don't treat this day like something to survive. You carry a quiet awareness with you, an inner posture that keeps asking, "Lord, where are you in this moment?" And because your eyes are open, you start seeing answers. You see His hand in the ordinary things that others miss. You see His kindness in the people you once took for granted. You see His mercy in the time you thought you lost. You notice the little pauses in the day that give your spirit space to breathe again. You see how even in waiting, even in imperfection, there is beauty, and it's not because your circumstances are perfect now. It's because you are seeing with a different heart. You're no longer only reacting to what happens, you are responding to what God is doing. You're not chasing proof of His goodness. You are walking with confidence that He's already gone before you. That mindset changes the way you move through your day. You take time to smile at someone. You choose to speak with gentleness. You catch yourself before letting worry lead. You create moments of stillness not because you're trying to be holy, but because you don't want to miss what's already holy around you. And when something goes wrong, and it will, you won't panic like before. You'll remember what you prayed this morning. You'll remember that being aware of God doesn't mean everything goes smoothly. It means even when things are hard, you don't feel alone. Even when things are uncertain, you feel anchored. You keep going, not because everything is clear, but because your eyes are open and your heart is awake. That is the strength God gives. Not a life without trouble, but a soul that can see beauty even through it. A mind that is not ruled by fear. A spirit that notices heaven's fingerprints on earth. So today, you live with your eyes open. You look slowly. You listen carefully. You let yourself feel joy in small ways. You give thanks without needing a reason. You turn small tasks into sacred acts. You remember again and again, this is the day the Lord has made. You are not promised tomorrow, but you are trusted with today. And how you see it, how you carry it, becomes an act of worship. So go now, not trying to make this day perfect, but trying to stay present in it. Let your open eyes guide your steps. Let grace lead your words. Let thankfulness be the rhythm of your heart. And if you feel lost again later, if you forget what you prayed this morning, don't worry. Come back. Whisper again, "Lord, open my eyes." He will answer, and you will see, once more, once again, how deeply, how quietly, how faithfully you are being blessed. And maybe, by the end of this day, nothing around you will look dramatically different. The same streets, the same people, the same work, but you will feel different inside. Because you chose to live this day awake. You chose to see instead of rush. You chose to respond instead of react. You chose to believe that God is near, even when nothing shouted His name. And that choice, it matters. It shapes the way you speak to others. It calms the way you speak to yourself. It softens the places in your heart that once felt tense and guarded. And even if no one else notices, heaven sees, God sees. He sees your small steps of surrender. He sees the way you pause in gratitude. He sees the way you choose trust over fear, even just for a moment. And He smiles, because this is what walking with Him looks like. Not dramatic, not always emotional, just faithful, steady, quietly open to grace. So as this prayer comes to a close, let this be your lasting request, not just for this morning, but for every day ahead. Lord, don't let me go blind to your presence. Help me to never become numb to goodness. Help me to live slowly enough to feel the joy of being alive. Help me to love deeply enough to leave traces of your heart everywhere I go. Let my eyes stay open, not only to beauty, but to purpose, not only to what makes me smile, but to what makes me grow, not only to what is easy, but to what is holy. And in all things, remind me again and again, this day is yours, and so is my life. Dear friends, thank you for spending this morning in prayer. May your day be filled with peace, with presence, and with eyes wide open to grace. And if this prayer has blessed you, don't forget to subscribe so we can meet again tomorrow in stillness, in truth, and in trust. Until then, may you walk gently, see clearly, and be held always in the love of God.